Y'all, I am so excited about this episode. Like, if you saw the name of my guest, then you know why I'm excited. I sat down to chat with my best friend, Kay Hillman. Now, about a month ago, we asked our audiences to submit questions to us that we could answer during a podcast series. Well, the podcast series is officially here. First, you want to head over to Kay's podcast, Moms Do Business Different, to listen to our episode there where we dive into all things podcasting, podcast strategy, and how to make podcasting work for you as a woman with limited time and capacity. The questions we got around podcasting were so good. After you listen to that episode, you're going to come back over here and listen to this conversation, which was, again, really good. We got quite a few questions from women around their business draining them or only working when they are showing up 24/7. And so in this one, Kay shares her bare minimum business strategy, which I'm a firm believer in myself and follow the same principles. This conversation is very open and raw and speaks to the woman who is currently feeling burnt out in her business or not understanding why she's only getting leads and sales when she is actively showing up. We both share what has worked for us and our clients and some great strategies. Now, I know when you saw the length of this episode and probably you started looking at me sideways, but I promise you this is worth the full listen. Kay drops so many gems that will get your entire life together. Like, I kid you not, you want to listen to this whole thing. All right, let's jump into today's episode. All right. Welcome back to Evergreen Marketing Era for Women Entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Andria Singletary, and today's episode is special because I am sitting down to chat with my best friend, Kay Hillman. If you're on my email list, then you may have remembered me talking about us doing a special podcast series together. And so this is it. We already did part one, which you can listen to on her podcast, where we dive into all things podcast strategy, podcasting as a mom and business owner. A really good conversation. But over here on my podcast, we're going to get into more of things around her thing, which is her bare minimum business strategy. And so before we get into this conversation, Kay, please introduce yourself.
There is no introduction. You did the right thing by calling me your best friend. No, seriously. Hey, y'all. Hey, my name is Kay Hillman. I am the founder of Moms Do Business Different, which is essentially a media and advisory company platform where we are really studying how mom-led businesses grow. And we're also figuring out, like, why do sales stop compounding when the business owner stops showing up? And so we help people redesign their business to focus on revenue and profit without you having to do more, which is my whole bare minimum concept. So, and that's me in a nutshell.
Yes. So, we had women in our community submit questions. So these questions are really good. And just like with the questions that we did on Kay's podcast, the ladies gave us a lot of context. So yeah, it's really good. So let's jump into the first question. Okay, so it says, my biz only makes money when I'm constantly showing up, posting, selling, answering messages, doing as Kay says, all the things. When life gets busy or I'm tired, everything slows down. Is this just normal, or if something is actually wrong with how my business is set up?
Yes, this was a good first question. When I saw it come through, I was like, oh, okay. So the core question being asked here is, or the thing that's happening is, the business only makes money when you're constantly showing up. And the question is this normal or is there something wrong with it? And the truth is that some involvement in your business is normal, right? Like, it's normal for your business to need you to do things. But if your business is totally dependent on you constantly being on or doing all the things, then that's not normal. And that means that there's something fundamentally wrong. And as someone who, if you listen to my podcast, like, I talk about how I am a recovering, do all the things girly. Like, there was a time in my business that literally every single part of my business required me to be actively working, actively doing. And I see this happen so often with mom business owners, but really women in general, because we want to serve, we want to help, we want to do all these things, right? And so what I would say to this is that at the start of your business, your presence is going to be required because you don't have team, you don't have systems in place, right? That phase is common where you are posting, you're doing the DMs, you're doing the content, you're doing all these different things, and you're doing everything manually. Because like there was a time that I was like doing every step of a workflow, like it was me sending the contract and individually and all those things, right? That phase is common, and what happens is as you start to grow in your business, you're actually not getting tired. Like you're not tired of doing the things. What's happening is that you need to find a way to get out of doing that in order for the business to actually grow, right? You're going to reach a point where you are meeting your capacity or your max capacity for the number of clients you can take versus what you have the capacity to physically do. And so this is what I like to call a fragile business design, right? And I hate to use the word fragile sometimes because people can like take it kind of negative. But your business design is just like very shaky, right? The foundation of your business is very shaky. And so if at the beginning or if whatever stage of business you're in, if your income is only happening when you're actively pushing, actively launching, actively selling and in the DMs and creating content, like you have to do all these things, then what I would say is you need to look at maybe 2 or 3 like core areas. One, your customer journey, right? Like, do you have a very clear buyer journey? And the buyer journey is going to look different for every business, and different business models have specific buyer journeys. But you want to look at what does it look like for someone to go from, oh, I just found you on Instagram or I just found you on your podcast to I'm ready to purchase from you. What does that buyer journey look like? And do you have things in place that push it along without you having to input anything new? Now, I will say with buyer journeys, there's never going to be a time that your buyer journey is just fully automatic. Like, contrary to what people like to say, no part of your business is actually fully automatic. But there should be enough of your journey or enough of the buyer journey happening without you having to do extra things so that you're not constantly having to have a business that's totally dependent on your presence. The other thing that I would look at is, I just blanked on it, but the other thing I would look at is your customer journey. Oh, like your sales process, like your sales mechanisms. Like, how exactly are you doing your sales process? And there's a lot of nuance to this, but one thing I see a lot of people do is that your sales process is tied to someone has to book a call, right? That's the first thing that I always tell people, like, girl, get that out of here yesterday, okay? People should not have to book a call in order to buy from you. It can be an option. Like a call should always be optional, but it shouldn't be mandatory, right? They shouldn't have to get on a call with you to find out your prices. They shouldn't have to get on a call with you to talk about whatever you're talking. Like that's so unnecessary. Instead, we need to have a sales process in place that eliminates the need to do those things, and then the call becomes a formality. I know for me, as much as I'm a sales call girly, like I love sales calls, and my sales calls usually don't last more than 15, 20 minutes max. And I know a lot of people who will spend like an hour on a sales call, and like if you're having to do that in order to make sales, your business is dependent on you. And when you can't show up, then you don't make any sales. And that is crazy. Like that's high key crazy. So we want to create these systems that allow you to make sales without having to constantly be in the mix of every step of the buyer journey. And I guess that's kind of part of the buyer journey, but I really want to separate sales strategy out of there because a lot of times we spend a lot of time in the DMs or on sales calls. And it's not the best use of your time, especially when you have a life and other things that are important or a priority. And the last thing I just thought about this one is another area to look at and think about when you're thinking about your business design is how are you capturing demand? So like your lead generation process. That's another process that I think a lot of times this is honestly why you're not making sales because you don't have a lead generation process. And so what I would say here is just having or looking at, do you have a system for how do you take attention and turn it into demand, right? So how do you take attention and turn it into, they're not just seeing your content or engaging with you somewhere, but they're actually raising their hand and saying, hey, I want to work with you, or hey, I'm interested in knowing more about XYZ offer. So to answer your question, you could have a business that's very durable and that can slow down without your business collapsing. So like you should be able to build a business that if you took some time off, if you stepped to the side, if you got sick, right? I broke my leg and I was down and out for like 7 or 8 weeks, right? Things happen, but your business shouldn't collapse, right? It might not grow, like it might not have, exponential growth, or you might not be scaling or whatever, like those sexy words everyone uses, but your business shouldn't disappear, right? So it shouldn't be that you're not making any money when you're not showing up. Like you should still be able to make money and not show up at the same time, which I know it sounds kind of crazy, but like your business should be set up in that way. And so what I want you to think about is like not showing up. I don't want you to think of it as like a failure on your part, but more so like, hey, this is a season where you're having to physically rest or you're having to rest from the business. But that doesn't mean that the business can't at least sustain itself. So if your business is not able to sustain itself, if it's not able to make at least one sale, right, or two sales, depending on like what you sell, if you're not making anything, then that is what I would say is like a warning sign that, okay, there's something going on with my business model that needs to change. So that's how I answer that.
Mm, so good. So I first connected with Kay 3 years ago, I think. I binged her podcast. I joined her email list, and I think when I joined at that time, she was in the middle of a launch for oh my gosh, what was the name of the offer?
Was it Moms Do Business Different or was I doing Becoming CEO?
Becoming CEO.
Okay, yeah. So I had a Becoming CEO. I think it was like a membership or something at the time.
Yeah. And it was a four-figure investment, and, like, I joined. Never had a conversation with her, anything like that. And she practices what
Oh,
she preaches. And it really goes to show, like, you don't have to do the sales calls. Like, I remember that was, like, one of the things, I think she first drilled into me, and she was like, "Girl, why are you doing 30-minute sales calls?" And stuff like that. And I got to the point where, like, if people wanted like, if they have follow-up questions, you can DM me, you can Voxer me. If you absolutely need to get on a sales call, we can do that, but it's gonna be, 10 to 15 minutes. Like, we're not gonna be on, a call for hours and stuff like that. And it got to the point, especially when I became more strategic with my podcast, where I would literally have people apply to work with me directly from the podcast without ever having a conversation with me because I was creating my content in a way that answered all of their questions and they were able to confidently make this decision like, yes, I want to work with Andrea inside of this offer. And so you can set things up in a way where your business isn't requiring you so much and different things like that. And we can probably go into like a whole thing about it, like especially like long form content and stuff like that. But I really love what you were saying, Kay, about like really looking at your customer journey process, really looking at like are you doing the things even to just first attract the right people, like those quality leads who they're gonna raise their hand to say, yes, they wanna work with you and different things like that. And like really, auditing your sales process. And it's like, how can you remove yourself from it? Like, does it really require you to be so hands-on, or can you change some things so that way it doesn't require as much of you? But also too, knowing that like when you do slow down, you still should be bringing in sales. Like, yeah, it may not be to the same extent as it was, but you still should be bringing in new sales. You still should even be bringing in new leads. So, like, having that system in place is going to make a world of a difference here.
yes, and that's why I think our work complements each other so well because, I'm looking at like, okay, here is like the foundation of your business, but then there are those strategies and things that you do need to have in place that fills in those gaps. And that's why I love that you talk about evergreen marketing. You're my podcast like Andrea is my podcast coach. Anytime I have a podcast question, I did the accelerator. So if you haven't joined the accelerator, I don't know what you're waiting for because I mean it really turned my podcast completely around. And also, it gave me what I needed, which is to be able to step away from parts of the business or step away from the business in its entirety in certain seasons, but things didn't fall apart. Like I still was able to maintain sales. I still made sales. I think I mentioned that I broke my leg last year. And so when I broke my leg last year, I actually stopped podcasting. But because of what you had taught me in the accelerator, those things were still working for me. And so because my business model was good, I had processes in place. And then we add in your evergreen strategy and it's like, boom, okay, everything can still sustain itself, even if I'm not physically showing up and creating new content. I'm not physically showing up and doing sales calls, which by the way, I did not know that we didn't even talk. That's so crazy. But like also, I really do practice what I preach. Like I don't be playing. Like I
Yeah.
have two kids. Like there's a lot that's going on over here that, you want to build a business that allows you to have those times and seasons where you're not showing up at your normal capacity, right? Like maybe it's just a little bit less, but even with that, it shouldn't mean that because you're showing up less, you're making less money. Like the time that you put in doesn't have to correlate with the amount of money you make. So that's like the take home thing from all this.
Yes, yes. But yeah, we never had a conversation. Your
What?
emails, I was like I, like, talked to my husband, I was like, "Babe, I need to work with Kay," you know?
Oh, and now look at us, best friends forever. That's so nice.
Right. Okay, so let's go to the next question. Okay, it says, honestly, I'm thinking about stepping back and closing my business. Even if it's only temporary, I recently had a baby and I've been needing a break, but I'm scared my income will completely disappear if I do. What realistically needs to be in place before a mom steps away from her business?
Oh,
This is
that
a good
question
one.
I know, that question, like, has me in my feels. First off,
Mhm.
congratulations on your baby, that's exciting. Welcome to motherhood if this is your first, or welcome back again if it's more, but man, this was a lot. There's a lot to this question, but the first thing that I wanna say is good for you for thinking about what you want to do and recognizing that taking a step back, even if it's temporary or if it's permanent, is an option. Because I think sometimes, like, I know for me, when I had my oldest, I kinda bulldozed through even though I probably should have taken a break, and then I just quit my business completely. And so I think it's good that you're having this moment where you're thinking like, "Okay, I should put this down even if it's for a second." And I call this seasonal leadership where you're like making a decision for a certain season of your life. And so in this season, it might make the most sense to pause because you just had a baby, you're trying to acclimate or whatever, right? And so it's not quitting, it's just a pause. And I think that's a very valid thing to do. Now, what I would say to, and I think the question at the end is what realistically needs to be in place. Well, first, I want to speak to the you're scared your income will completely disappear. I think this kind of ties into the last question of, how to know if it's normal. In this case, it is normal that you will see like a decrease in your revenue, right? But it shouldn't all go away, right? Like unless you're gone for like a year and just don't do anything. And even then, I actually think that like someone could go a year. I haven't tried this yet, but I have gone quite a few months where I've just like done nothing and the business has been fine. But I think that you will find that your revenue will decrease. So I don't want to like delude you and be like, oh yeah, you can make the same amount. Like that would be crazy to say. But I guess to answer the last part of your question, which is what realistically needs to be in place for you to step away from your business, there's a couple of things that I feel like are like non-negotiables that you just have to have for like the foundation of your business to work. You have to have a good offer. You have to have a very solid like workflow and or not workflow. You have to have a very solid funnel. And for that funnel to work, you have to have traffic or like leads. So starting with like your offer, you need to have an offer that sells without you being live. And this is probably one of the most problematic things that I see is that a lot of people have offers that you have to sell it live. And it's a little tricky because I know people love group coaching programs. They love this, they love that. But at the end of the day, sometimes that's not the best business model for you, especially if you do need to take some time away or take a step back. And so your offer, it's really important. I call it a bare minimum offer because it really is thinking about what's the least you can do to get someone the result they want, right? And also with the offer, it has to be an offer that you can sell without having to be live, without having to show up. So examples of this are like evergreen courses, audits, right? I love audits because you can sell an audit at any time. There's never a time that you can't sell an audit. It could be the middle of the summer, it could be the day before Christmas. It is not like an audit will sell. Um, Services, right? Having services with a wait list, retainer offers, right? But specifically, like more so one on one retainer offers, which I have different philosophies about moms having one on one offers, but I do err on the side of if you need more freedom, a one-on-one offer is probably a really good option for you, right? So at the end of the day, you really need to have an offer that doesn't require too much live energy to sell the offer, but also to deliver the offer. Now, the second thing I said was the workflow, right? Yeah, no, your funnel. So you need to have a funnel, right? A funnel needs to be in place. And this kind of goes back to the last question where I was talking about the sales mechanism, like your sales strategy and like your buyer journey. You need to have some sort of funnel that is automated, right? Like it doesn't require you to have to do every step of it. So I said at the beginning, like there was a time in my business where I was like manually sending out contracts. I was manually sending out the invoice. I was like doing all these pieces manually. if you're trying to dip out and go on maternity leave next week, you need to get like Dubsado. You need to get some kind of
Mm.
platform that just allows you to automate all these things. You can use ThriveCard and use like a Zapier integration. Like I'm not here to tell you like all the details because like that's not my ministry. But what I will say is that you do need some sort of sales process or like buying like the actual act of them buying needs to be automated, right? And like even something like down to the email sequence, like just having emails that, Andrea, like you just gave me some tea right there because I didn't realize it was just my emails. And but like at the end
Yeah.
of the day, like that was a like you went through a sales process, but it's because I always prioritize those things because I build my business to be able to dip out of it at any time. Like at any point in time, I want to be like, yeah, not showing up this week, and then I just don't, right? Or I'm not showing up this month, and then I don't, right? So you need to have like email sequences, just some sort of simple funnel for people to be able to buy again without you being present. Going back to the offer, the offer needs to require very little live energy to sell it. It also needs to require as little energy as possible to deliver it. And then the act of them actually buying it or the sales process, that also needs to be something that can be done without you being present. Like I yesterday, actually, yeah, it happened to me yesterday where I woke up and two people bought something from me and I was just like, wow. One of them I don't know from a can of paint. The other one I know. The other one we had like some conversation. But the other one I was like, I don't even know you. Like I don't even know who would know you to even refer you. But like that's beside the point. The point is that I woke up and they both had purchased and it didn't require me to send any emails or like go back and forth or like have to, find the contract and put it in an email. Like it didn't require those things. So that would be the second thing. And then the last thing that I would say is traffic. Now, the traffic, I will say this is probably the hardest piece, but the traffic is what makes it to where your income won't disappear while you're gone. Okay. So the other two things, those are just, it's kind of required, right? But this traffic piece, this is what keeps your business from completely disappearing or your revenue from disappearing when you take this break. And so I feel like Andrea, you're actually like probably masterful at this piece because of what you teach with evergreen marketing, right? And with like SEO, podcast SEO, your email list. You need to have some sort of traffic source that is constantly replenishing itself so that people can go through the workflow or the funnel and that can actually get to the point of buying that offer, right? And so this is the part that I will say it's something that I would want you to have in place well before you need to use it. But even if you don't, you can always leverage things like referrals, right? Like my Hail Mary has always been reaching out to the girlies and asking for a referral. Like I will do that so quick because if you reach out for referrals, it's one email that you send out to a bunch of people or to
Mhm.
whoever you want to send it to. And then they like a friend tells a friend tells a friend, and there you go. Now you have some traffic coming in, right? So there are ways that you can make traffic work, even if it's like a last minute effort. But I will say, like, having a predictable traffic source in place, whether it's a podcast, whether it's, having an email list that you've been collecting these people on this list, or prioritizing like blogging and SEO, prioritizing partnerships, right? Like Andrea, what I loved about the detox club you used to have is like we were able to apply to all these like different partnerships, but you can still do partnerships. Like you can just like Andrea and I, we're basically doing a partnership right now where we're, doing each other's episode, right? And just speaking on each other's podcast. So looking at these ways that you can have a predictable way to generate traffic is also going to be very important. But I would say that like in this case, going back to what I said in the last question, income dip, that's totally normal, right? Like it's normal for it to dip because you're going to be out.
Mhm.
But the goal is I would say the goal here is like continuity. Like I want to have continuous, like my income to just kind of stabilize, right? It might go down a little bit, but I don't want it to like completely go away. And obviously it makes sense that it's not going to peak during this time. Although that'd be really cool, right? It'd be really cool to like have a huge crazy launch while you're, on maternity leave. But we ain't gonna go there right now. It's okay. It's okay. We're gonna chill out. But I think it's definitely normal to like see that dip. It's just important that we kind of prioritize and just think to ourselves, like, this is a time that I'm giving myself to rest. It's okay that I rest, and the business is not gonna fall apart, it'll be fine, and it might dip a little bit, but it won't disappear completely if you have those kinda 3 things in place.
Love that. So many good nuggets there. I think it would be good to share kind of like what I'm doing to kind of prepare for maternity leave. I realized you asked me that on your podcast and pregnancy brain completely forgot to answer.
And mom brain, I forgot to tell you to do it, so it is what it is, girl.
So I like Kay said, like, I love that you're really like you're being open and honest with yourself. You're not just trying to push through and everything. And congratulations. And this is just such a sweet and precious time and everything, especially in the newborn phase. I absolutely love it and I'm looking forward to being back in it. But some of the things that I'm doing is yes, with my podcast, I'm planning to leverage my podcast as well as blogging to drive as much traffic to my website. My one-on-one offer, so my Evergreen Marketing Accelerator, I'm gonna put that on pause just because I don't know how I'm gonna feel after I have baby, and I don't wanna make that commitment, but I'm planning to sell, a couple of digital product well, not one is gonna be a digital product, the other one is gonna be a audit, like Kay mentioned, that it's, like, super bare minimum, doesn't require much of me and everything like that, but I'm actually planning to leverage paid ads to drive traffic for those specific offers. So I'm building out the funnel now and everything like that. I know for you though, it sounds like you're trying to hurry up and get to like starting your maternity leave and everything. So I'm not saying do all of these things, but looking at like based off of what Kay shared and everything, like what can you realistically set up right now that's going to bring in some income? It may not be, the same as what you're used to, but at least you will have peace knowing you have some income coming in. Do you have like, a digital product that you've been sitting on, or maybe you sold it before and you stopped selling it that you can revive, something simple that you can do. Even like the audits, like I took my main podcast audits and I've turned it into a mini podcast audit where literally I don't have to hop on a call with anyone. They just fill out a form. I audit certain aspects of their podcast and what they're getting back. It's going to be very valuable. It's going to help them still get results, but it doesn't require a much of my time and energy. And so really looking at that too, especially being in the newborn phase, sleep is going to be crazy at that time and everything like that. So just really looking at like what is something simple that you can do to still bring in income and different things like that. And even too, like, even if you're driving them to a free resource, at least you're still bringing in leads during that time while you're on leave and everything. So there are things that you can do and everything, but know that it is okay to step back, to take that break. I know this is a conversation I've seen a lot on threads where people are saying like, "Well, I'm not taking a maternity leave. I'm gonna still keep going with my business." And that's great for them. But I know for me, because I this is my second time being pregnant while running a business. I started my business when I was 12 weeks pregnant with my daughter, and I didn't take a maternity leave. And that was like, I regretted that. And so this time I'm like, I'm taking a maternity leave. I'm saying 3 months, but it may only be 2 months. I don't know. But I know that I'm putting things in place so that I can take that time off. So it's okay. Like, don't think you're doing anything wrong. Don't think you gotta push through or anything like that, but just be realistic about what you can actually do in this season.
Yes. And I just want to say one last thing. Even if you don't, like, even if you just decide tomorrow, like, after you listen to this, you're like, you know what? I'm just going to go on vacation. Like, I'm just going to go on maternity leave.
Yeah.
That is okay too. Like, that is so okay too. Like, when I tell you, when I quit my business the first time, like, and I thought I was quitting, which in hindsight, I guess we can just call it a maternity leave. But I quit for like 6 months and I was just like, bump it. And I just served my existing clients. As they dripped off, I just didn't worry about it anymore. And I was down to $0. And guess what? I just rebuilt it again. Like, I think we put so much weight also in having to like, oh, I need to maintain or I need to grow. I need to like, but it's like, it's okay to just be like, you know what? I am just going to stop right now. And I'm not going to force myself to try to, oh, let me do this, try to, it's okay. Like to just be like, all right, Kay, I heard what you said. I'm gonna implement this when I come back, and just like call it and like it's okay. Like you will make the money back. Like you will make the money when you have the time and the capacity. And so I love that you just mentioned the piece, like just like some tangible and like tactical, like tangible things that you can do. And also I just want to give you like that full permission to be like, you know what? I just want to enjoy, like, like you said, like they're only a baby for like half a second. And then the next thing you know, they're like running around and it's like, whoa, what happened? So it's okay to like enjoy and embrace this moment And then, like you said, you can just do small things like the audit, like Andrea's audit is like top tier. Like I still look at your audit that you did for the accelerator for me from last year.
Mhm.
I still look at that. I looked at it, I think, last month. So it's like you can do small things that are still very, very valuable. And like Andrea said, like it'll bring in just a little bit of revenue so you're not like down to zero. Um, but I also want to like free you if you're thinking like, oh man, like I have so much stuff I have to do before I go on maternity leave. Absolutely not. You could just stop. Like you can just literally stop and then like Canva will be there one day in the middle of the night when you're breastfeeding or whatever you're doing. Like you can be like, you know what? This was a really dope offer that I had that I never sold. Let me sell this. Or this is a really dope lead magnet. Let me promote this. And then now you're just slowly building up those little systems that I was talking about. And then when you're ready, you can just actively sell it. So there's
Yeah.
also there's also that.
Yeah, and also too, something that Kate teaches a lot too is, again, depending on your capacity and everything, your current clients or former clients, do you have an offer that you can sell them into? So
Mhm.
you don't have to do all the things, or like Kay said, you can do a full stop and come back to it when you're ready. Like it's your business. You get to decide what you do.
Yes.
Okay, let's get to the next question. So it says, I'm tired of rebuilding my business every year or start over every time life changes, like when I had my second child. What kinds of choices actually make things easier and a sustainable business over time instead of harder?
Girl, I'm with you, sis. I'm tired of rebuilding every year too. I'm tired of starting over every time something happens. I feel you on like I actually really felt this question because I feel like this is such a relatable experience for all women in business. Like I
Mhm.
think that we all like, the beginning of the year happens and it's like, oh, should I burn this down? Should I, it's like oh, it's going, it's getting close to a menstrual cycle and it's like, oh, I think I'm gonna burn this down. I will say, first and foremost, before you even make a decision around rebuilding your business or starting over, I would I'm big on cycle syncing, but I would just say like wait until you're in ovulation phase. Like try to get to a part of your life cycle where you're happy. Like don't make these decisions when you're not happy or when you're like in a low energy space because you will make bad decisions. Like you'll make bad because you're making them because you actually don't feel great. So I will always say like the first thing, like, when we're thinking about choices, don't make this choice when you're not in a good headspace. Like, if you are feeling anything like, oh my goodness, I need money or I need to do this or I need to, like, if you're in a need space, if you're just feeling overall negative, don't make any decisions because you're going to make one that you're going to probably dial back. But if you like close everything down or whatever, like it becomes harder to walk the decision back, right? So that would be my first thing. Is like, let's make this decision when we're feeling at least calm, right? At least like even headed. The next thing that I would say is rebuilding, I feel like happens at key points in your life or business, right? But a lot of it is rooted in the fact that your business is built around you and not around like a system or a concept or a philosophy, right? And so if your business is built around like a system or a philosophy, it's not like a lot of times you're not having to rebuild because there's not much to change. You're just like tweaking things or like realigning things. But if you built a business around you, then when you have a baby, because you fundamentally changed, because your capacity, because so much about you has changed, you are going to have to rebuild. If you built a business around you, then if you at the beginning of the year when you just have a new thought or you become this new person or whatever, like your business is going to have to change because you actually changed. So I will say, like in this case, it's more so about like how can we build your business around a system, around a philosophy, around a concept, around a mission, an idea, a vision, anything but you. Like anything but you. Because again, like going back to when to make the decision, it's like if you make the decision when you personally are in a bad headspace, you will make a bad business decision because it's rooted in a personal situation. And so building the business, like, I think the first thing is, like, taking that step back to make sure, like, am I building this business around a system, a philosophy, a concept, a thought, a movement, a vision, a mission? Like, can we build it around that and not, "Oh, I really enjoy helping people with their productivity," or, "I really enjoy helping people with" like, shifting from the I to the system or I to the business will really help with this kinda question, right? Um, then once you're in that space where now we're building around a system or a concept or whatever, now we can look at what's happening within the business itself, right? So one thing that happens a lot is when people build businesses around themselves, you usually end up with a ton of offers, right? Because every minute you're thinking of something new and it's like, oh my God, I can help people with that. Oh my goodness, I can help people with that. So then you build these offers and you build like, these exhaustive offer suites that have, an upsell, downsell, cross sell, this, that. And I mean, there's a place for those types of things, don't get me wrong. But for a lot of us, it becomes very hard and jarring when life seasons happen, when you have all those things going on. So what I would recommend is um, having less offers, right? Like, let's look at these offers. Let's look at the vision, the mission, the core philosophy of the business, and then figure out, okay, which of these offers actually add value to the system? Which of these offers add value to the end goal that the business is trying to do? Not what is my life mission because I'm multi-passionate, this, and the third. No, what is the thing that the business can hold, right? And that might be just one, two, three, maybe four offers, right? I feel like four is like kind of the sweet spot in terms of like the max offers that I see businesses can usually hold. Now, this is not taken into account if you have like a digital product based business, right? Because a digital product based business will often have more than four offers because digital products are just a different beast. So I mean this in a sense of like, your offers that are outside of a digital product. Okay. So just to make that clear, because I don't want you to think you can only have four digital products. So we have the offers. And then what I would say is now we need to look at your MVP, which is your most valuable payer. So the person that's going to buy your offer. So what we want to figure out is who is our primary buyer. A lot of people will create like ideal clients or client avatars for each offer. It's like this offer will help this person do this, and then this offer can help this person do that. But I can also help this person, so I'm gonna create that. And it's like, no, have one buyer that essentially will ascend through all the offers, right? So this needs to be one buyer type or one like primary person. I call them the MVP, right? So this is your one person. What does it look like for her at different stages of your business, right? And then again, your offers will line up with that, right? But it shouldn't be that offer one will help this person, but then offer three helps this person in a completely different, like offer one and person one and person three are completely different. That's too much. And again, this is going to make it to where every year you're going to have to rebuild, or every time something happens in your life, you're going to have to rebuild because you're rooting everything into proximity to you, right? And that's what we have to break, right? We have to break people feeling like, or not people feeling like, but people needing proximity to us in order to get a result, right? Not saying that we don't give them that because yes, they're going to get that. But if that's how you build the business, it will make it to where anytime something happens to you personally, you're going to have to rebuild or you're going to feel like you have to rebuild. Um,
Mm.
yeah. So then going on to, oh, when someone say, it's like, okay, clock. So the last thing that I want to say about this is the problems, right? So I'm actually working with a client on this right now where we are talking through, again, trying to get her in a position where she's not having to rebuild, identifying what is that core problem that you solve repeatedly. I feel like I keep saying this, but a lot of times when you build the business around you, you realize there are so many things that you can do. The problem with that is that when you change or when you no longer like this anymore, when you no longer feel aligned with that, you still have these people and this problem that you said that you could solve, and people are looking at you for that thing, and then now you don't want to do it, right? And then you feel like you have to restart, or you start to change your messaging, and then people don't go with you, and it's just this whole spiral. And so, what I want you to do is, I want you to think of based off of your business and the core philosophy, core system, whatever that's happening with the business, what is the core problem that you can solve repeatedly? And this might not be like a super specific drilled down problem. It could be a conceptual problem, like a big picture problem. Like I help people with their capacity, right? Like I help people, optimize their capacity, right? That gives you some wiggle room of how you do it, what method you do it in, what your like frameworks are. But you need to have one problem that is like the guiding light and everyone can say, oh, if you want this result, or if you need this thing, if you need help with this problem, this girl can help you, right? So if someone needs help with their business model, a bare minimum business model, they know and they're a moms do business different. It's the place that you go to, right? If you are someone who wants to, I know Andrea is like not saying social media optional right now, but if you want to build a business that like has that capacity to be able to work regardless of how much you input into it, evergreen marketing era, like that's where you are, right? If you're looking for evergreen marketing strategy, that is your lane, right? So we know if this is what we're doing, we go to Andria, right? So you need to understand what is your core problem that you can solve repeatedly, even if it's a big picture concept. Just having that one thing will allow you to be able to have a guiding light so that you're not having to rebuild, rebrand every single year or every time something happens in your life. So a sustainable business, like I say that your business layers, it doesn't restart. Okay. So you're not restarting, you're just adding a new layer depending on what the needs of the business and your buyers are. Okay. So that, yeah, I would say that was the answer because I can go on a tangent, but I'm going to stop it right there. I'm going to stop it right there.
That was so good, and I really resonated with that because I realized that's what I did in 2024 when I first launched the Social Media Detox Club. I hated being on social media, and so I essentially built this whole thing around me, but then I found myself conflicted when I wanted to start showing back up on social media and everything,
Right.
and so I really had to get to, like, well, what is it that I'm actually not even me, like, what is it that I'm doing here? Like, what is, like you were saying, like, the philosophy and different things like that, and I realized what it was for me was building my business in a way that fits my current season of life, and that kinda became, like, the theme. So even though, like, yeah, I'm all doing, like, podcasting evergreen content, at the heart of it, I'm helping women build their businesses in a way that supports their current season of life. And so I like, there's just so much wisdom in what Kay said, like, go back and re-listen to her response because it's so true. When you stop making it about you, you're not gonna find yourself rebuilding. So even going into this year knowing that I closed the social media detox club and I was shifting away from that and focusing purely on, like, podcast strategy, I didn't have to rebuild. I didn't feel like I was starting over. I already had so many things in place already. It was just going and, like, tweaking and changing some things to make it better align with, my current messaging and positioning and different things like that. But I didn't feel like I'm starting completely over, and it wasn't stressful or overwhelming or anything like that. And so I think that's something many of us do without realizing it, is building this business around us. And it's hard because we're told, like, our brand story and different things like that, and so we really look at, trying to find those women who were once where we were and stuff like that, which there's nothing wrong with that, but again, you wanna make sure that what you're building your business around has a strong foundation. Like, we're fickle people, we're very emotional, and so we can like something one minute and the next we don't, and I found myself, like, full transparency with the social media detox club, I was resenting it. Like, I didn't wanna be known for that anymore. I didn't wanna do that anymore. I wanted to move away from that, and so, yeah, all I'll just say is, like, that was good.
I love so much, like, everything you said there because it's such a real experience. Like, I went through this twice. Like, it took me 2 times, so this is the 3rd time now for me to figure this out because when I came into the online space, well, first I was a photographer, which I still am, but I was a photographer. I came into the space and I was known as like the Instagram girl. Like I blew up on Instagram. Everybody was like Instagram, like teach us Instagram. So like that was the lane. But it's like that was built around my interest in Instagram. I have zero interest in Instagram right now. Like I like it as a platform. It's fun to be on. But like you said, it's like building the business based off of my interest at that time, like that was just crazy. And like people will say, like you said, share your brand story or like you speak to the person that was like 2 steps behind you, stuff like that. Girl, sometimes I don't want to talk to that person. That version of me, like, girl, side eye. Like, I mean, like, so it's just like when you build it like that, it's not enjoyable. Like, and so I did that. Then I pivoted. And again, my next interest was sales, which just because you're good at something does not mean it has to be your business, right? Like that's one thing. I'm excellent. I can sell anybody's product. I can sell my own products. I can sell you your own
The
underwear.
way
Like
you be selling my
girl,
products and services for
girl,
me.
okay, listen, I will sell someone's like and for a time I was being paid to do that, to help people sell their product, to actually be the person that sold it, like all these things. But that isn't like again, it's niching yourself around an interest And that's just not the best thing to do. Instead, you give yourself more room to evolve and grow and to layer when you build it around a philosophy. And that's why, like, I love what you're doing, like what you do. Like, it's like this is a concept. And at the end of the day, I know this sounds crazy, right? I know this sounds crazy, but like, we are not required in our business. You know what I'm saying? Like, anybody could host the Moms Do Business Different podcast, right? Because I'm not making it rooted in me. Now people get to know me, they love me. Like I'm now the talent, right? Like I'm the personality. It's the vibe, right? But I could also hire someone else that had a similar vibe or the vibe that I want or whatever, and they could do it too. That's what you want. You want to be able to build a business that's like, okay, I don't care who's leading the helm. I just want this problem solved, right? That's the goal. Because then at any point you could dip, you could hire someone else to do it. Like it just gives you so much flexibility. You can sell it, right? You can sell your company if that's what you want to do. There's so many things you can do when it's not rooted in you. And that's the key. So I love this question. I mean, I feel like it took me 3 times to really learn this, but, like, now I'm like, "Ain't no going back, honey." I've been rocking with this for the last 3 years, and it's just been really great to help other people do this and other moms do this because I have clients who are they're thinking like, "Okay, could I sell the company? Could I hire someone else that can do content for me because I don't have to be the face. I don't have to be the one that's always showing up." It just gives you more options, and also it helps you get out of the cycle of every year or every time something happens in your personal life, you have to rebuild or rebrand or whatever. Like, it just kinda pulls you out of
Mhm.
that.
Yes, yes. Okay, last question. I love y'all. Okay, my question is how do you constantly produce content that resonates with your audience on a regular basis? How do you shift your audience when you shift in business? For example, I sold products and that was easy. Now I'm a service provider.
Okay, I think we both need to do this question, and I feel like based off of my last answer, I feel like a lot of this kinda goes together, but, I'm first gonna answer the part about how do you consistently produce content that resonates with your audience? We talked about this in your episode on my show, so you guys should go listen to my show, right, to hear part of this, but I would say that it's all about, like, like, just having a personality. I don't feel like this is something, like, resonating with your audience, either the girls are gonna get it or they don't, like, the people that don't jive with my personality, they don't follow the podcast, and I'm okay with that, like, I'm not crying or losing any sleep over people that don't wanna listen or who don't like my vibe, right? So, I think that there's not too much that you can really do on that front, but I think if we're talking about resonating from the standpoint of what you're saying, I feel like the important thing here is when you're creating content, just actually think about the person that's listening, right? Like, think about the listener's experience, think about their lived experience, their questions, their concerns, their experiences, and share your own if they're relevant. But also keep in mind that, like, people are coming and listening to your content with their own lived experience and perspective. And I think as long as you honor that, and I'm not saying you have to give like caveats every 5 seconds, but as long as you like honor that and recognize, like, hey, if my audience is moms, I probably shouldn't like diss motherhood. I probably shouldn't you know, say negative things about being a mom or like, as long as you're being mindful of that, I feel like the people that just naturally resonate and understand your message will get it. And I think that maybe the core issue or like the core thought here is just have a guide. I like to call it like a guiding star, like a guiding light. Have like a core philosophy, have a core message, and build around that concept. And then you will attract people that resonate with that. And then your lived experience, your reality, your conversations, your vibe, how you talk, all the things will bring in the right people. And then in terms of like shifting your audience when you shift in business, go back to my last question because baby, we got to get out of that. We can't just keep building the business around ourselves and like our own just us, right? If you build it around yourself, you will always have to shift because there will be a moment where you're like, I actually high key hate talking about this subject. This is not enjoyable. And then that leaves you with starting over. So I would say that if this is probably like your last time that you're shifting, maybe just think about like, okay, what's the core philosophy here? Like, what's the core message here that I want to express to people? Get that out there. Like, just keep talking about it. Like, keep talking about it. Like, it took me a year and some change, but bare minimum finally caught on. And I'm so glad. Like, I'm so glad that people finally picked up bare minimum. Cause like I understood when I created the bare minimum concept or like the bare minimum business model, I knew there was gonna be some pushback because people think that bare minimum is a negative term. So
Mm.
I knew that people were gonna push back on it, and they did. But the girls that get it, right? And the more I talked about it, the more I explained it, the more I shared, like, hey, you need a business that doesn't require a lot of you. You need a business that can run on its own and independent of you. Now the girls are eating it up. I'll get the DMs and they're like, help me build this, help me do this, like, and they're like, I want to do it in a bare minimum way. Exactly, girl. Like, this is not negative. This is just how we're building the business so that we can step away from it. So saying all that to say, like, if you have this core thought, concept, whatever, you have this core thing, you just communicate that. You just be yourself. Now, your example is saying that you sold products and then now you're a service provider. In that case, I wouldn't try to necessarily shift your audience. Like, I think sometimes we try to hold on to old things that don't serve us in a new season. If these people that bought your products are not a good fit for you as a service provider, don't try to drag them along with you. So, this is something that I had to learn when I decided to separate my personal brand from my business brand. At the end of the day, if there were people that were following me personally that weren't interested in my business, I'm not really worried about that. And I'm not trying to pull all those people over just because it has more followers or more engagement or whatever. And now that they're separated out, they've been separated out for a couple of years. It feels great to know that the people that are following my business are interested in the business versus the people that are following me personally. Cool. Like, you can just kiki with me over here and it's not a big deal. So I would say, like, when we talk about shifting audiences, it's okay to not shift the audience. And I think that for this question, I really want to drive that point home. Like, you don't have to bring that audience with you. And I feel like, especially with products, which I don't work with too many product based businesses. I only have like a handful, like probably less than five for sure. But I will say, like, product based businesses, they're probably not going to come over to your services. I don't see the correlation there. So I wouldn't try to force that audience to shift over. Instead, I would just really focus on your message, your core message, sharing it as much, like, until you are blue, like, you're gonna get tired of talking about it, but that's okay. Keep talking about it some more. And then your audience now will naturally align itself to your new message. And you won't have to worry about shifting old people, but you don't have to do that because you have a new audience.
Yes to everything you said. I don't even think I have anything to add for that first question because, I mean, it's true. Like, you got to share your core message. You got to be who you are. And I feel like the goal is to repel the people who aren't a good fit. So it's not you adjusting who you are to fit your current audience. You need to make sure your messaging is calling in the right people and, again, repelling the wrong people. As far as shifting your audience, I guess I don't wanna say I necessarily shifted my audience, I expanded my audience, so to speak, because like Kay, for the longest, I was just speaking to moms, and while I do still speak to moms, I now focus on women in general, and so, basically, how I shifted my messaging is, again, back to this idea of building a business that fits your season of life, like, whether you're a mom or not, you have a life outside of your business. And so you need to be building your business in a way to allow you to live that life. And you shouldn't be just all in your business. That is like your life. No, that's how you burn out and end up, quitting your business or whatever. So I think for you, as far as like, it's not about shifting your audience. It's again, shifting your message to make sure it's in alignment with where you're at now in business. So you may not be bringing everybody with you. Last year, I actually deleted my email list, but I did give everybody a chance. Like, I let them know the direction of my business was going, who I was going to be speaking to. And I said, if this still aligns with you, you can join me over here on Flowdesk. If not, there is no hard feelings. I love serving you these past few years, but this is no longer my focus. So you can do something like that if you need to, but if they're not in alignment with where you're going with your business, why do you wanna take them with you? Because that's just you're gonna have this audience full of people who just aren't a good fit, and as Kay says, like, we're here to make money. Like, we wanna make sure we're speaking to the right people and everything. So, I think you have to shift your perspective instead of focusing so much on the audience and really looking at where you're at in business, who you're actually, called to serve right now, what your offers are and different things like that, and then making sure you're growing the right audience that's in alignment with that.
So, so good. And and something that you said made me think about I feel like so often when we are thinking about producing content or putting things out there, we're thinking, and it was the last thing that you said about like, don't focus on the audience. I wholeheartedly agree with the only thing that we need to center is the message. If you center your message, the audience will come. And I'm not one of those like build it and they will come people, but I will say that a lot of times it's actually pretty spot on. Like if you build around your message, if you build around the core truth of the core thing you're trying to teach, the right people will come and you don't have to worry about shifting your audience or anything like that because like the ones that want to be there will stay. And so just like you, I deleted my whole email list last year and it was great. The year before that, so I think 2024, I basically deleted all my Instagrams. Like I unsubscribed everybody except for like a handful of people. And it's just like that's what happens when you don't center the audience, right? Now, it doesn't mean that we're not building community. It doesn't mean that we don't care about people. It doesn't mean that at all. What it means is that I don't want you to just be here if you don't actually want to be here. And I don't want to
Mhm.
force you or drag you along if you don't want to be in this space. And so maybe in this case, you might need a clean slate. And that's what I wanted to say. I want to say, like, hey, just take a clean slate. Maybe you can just do like how I love your example of like, you let people know, like, hey, if you want to stay with me, this is what I'm doing, come follow me over here. And then that just gives you an opportunity to have like a very clean break. And then from that point, you can focus on your new message because there is this weird transition period because this has happened to me before when I was shifting audiences, like, oh, I'm talking about Instagram. Now I'm talking about sales. There's this weird, messy middle where you're talking about both, right? Where you're talking about marketing to keep the marketing people, and then you're talking about sales to keep like, so in this case, like, and that just makes things harder. It makes the transition harder to what the message is that you want to talk about. Instead, you can just have a clean break and just say, hey, going forward, this is what we're doing. If you want to stay, you're welcome to stay. Meet me over here. If you don't want to stay, cool. Like, thank you for this time that we had together. It was fun. Moving on, right? And so I just want you to like kind of give yourself permission to really take that advice that Andrea just gave of like having the clean break and just like, hey, I'm just gonna delete everybody and call it and like be okay with that because you know that your message that you have now is going to be so much stronger if you focus on the message and not try to split your attention between multiple different things as you're trying to transition an audience or shift an audience.
Mhm. Yeah, this is something you actually helped me with, Kay, because I was feeling some guilt, like, when I was debating on whether or not I was just gonna scrap my email list, but it's like, the reality is that, like, I I wanna say this in a way where it doesn't come off offensive, but it's like I don't owe them anything. And this isn't to say I don't care that, I didn't love the community that I built and everything, but it's like that's not what I'm doing anymore. It's not in alignment anymore. And so I have to make that break. I gotta move on to the next thing. I can't keep holding on. And so it's okay, like this is your permission to make that break. Like, yes, there is a way you can do it so that there's, no hard feelings and different things like that, or people may still feel what they want to feel, but it's like you don't have to keep holding on, especially if it doesn't make sense for you right now, because it's just more work for you. Now you find yourself you creating content for them and content for other people. And it's like we don't have time or energy to do all that. So either they're a good fit or they're not, and move on.
Yes, I could not agree with this more. And just like to land the plane, you're so right of like, we don't owe people, especially when you are trying to do something that is for the better. Like, truthfully speaking, like this pivot from selling these products to a service provider, or the pivots that I made from talking about Instagram to sales to now, business models and stuff. Like, these pivots, like these things are so important. And you don't owe people in the last season anything as you're going into the new season. If anything, it's just like, hey, if you want to come along, here's the courtesy of like, hey, this is what I'm doing. And I think the kind thing to do is to let these people go, right? Like, I will say that. I think it's kinder to let people go than to like have this messy middle space because I think when we do that, it creates more confusion for those people. Like, people can respect it better when you say, hey, this is the transition that's happening. This is what's going on going forward, moving on. A clean break is way more like respectable, more in integrity to do that than to like linger and do this weird, like, oh, I must still do this for them. it's too much. And as someone who has done this multiple times, I've had to close offers multiple times. I've had people that have been upset about it, and that's okay.
Mhm.
They also came back and bought from me in the next thing. So it's just like, were you really mad? I don't know. Like, I don't really know what was going on here. But I mean, it is what it is, right? So it's not to say like this is gonna be like perfect and butterfly and roses. Like, I want to be honest about that. But I will say, like, it is a situation where it's like, I love how you worded that. Like, it's okay, like, and we can have a clean break, and it's actually in integrity to just go ahead and be like, "Hey, this is what's happening moving forward," right? Like, if you do that, I feel like you're gonna feel a lot better about this shift, and then I think it kind of answers the question about consistently producing content that resonates with your audience, because what you could be running into right now is that you're just creating content for too many people, right? Like, you're speaking to so many people, so you're trying to create all this content for people that you actually don't wanna create the content for, or even if you did wanna create content for them, it's just the volume that you have to do it at in order to get your new message out, plus keep these people happy, it's just entirely too much. So I think once you make this shift, you'll probably feel a lot more just aligned and like you can actually create the content consistently without it being overwhelming or taxing or something that you're, like, constantly thinking about, "How do I keep these people happy and build what I wanna build?"
That was so good. Thank you, Kay, for sitting down to chat with me. I love both of our conversations, and I'm so glad we did this. This was a lot of fun,
Yes.
especially being able to get the questions from our community and, answer stuff that, like, normally we're planning our own episodes and stuff like that. So this was a lot of fun. Make sure you guys go and check out part one on Kay's podcast. I will make sure to have that link below. But before we wrap up, Kay, please let listeners know where they can connect with you.
Oh, yes, you can connect with me anywhere you see Andria because we are 2 peas in a pod. Nah. For real, you can find me on my podcast, Moms Do Business Different. I'm also on Instagram, same handle, Moms Do Business Different. And if you wanna just kiki with me personally, you can go follow Mrs. Kay Hillman.
All right. I will make sure to have everything linked in the show notes. Well, thank you again.
Yeah, thank you.